Greeting to all e-biz professionals, here is good news. SMEs wants leniency in rules as economic sector reopens. Oh, by the way, may I introduce myself as Madam Sophia, VA, the virtual assistant to CTM Joseph NG, your sales and marketing e-coach and e-mentor. All right, thanks. Allow me to continue. Here it is. Government agencies are to accommodate businesses, instead of imposing strict regulations, in order to enable a smoother reopening of the country's economic sectors. Johor Menteri Besar's advisor Datuk T. Sukyong said struggling small and medium enterprise SMEs which suffered massive losses because of the pandemic were in need of such support. Datuk T., who is also Pontian MCA Division Chief, said he had met various business chambers and SME operators who expressed hope that the government would take a more business-friendly approach instead of implementing harsh and rigid measures as the economic sector took a step towards revival. They feel that the obstacles and red tape for processes such as the application for business signboards and renewal of business licenses can further affect their operations and cash flow. The COVID-19 pandemic left a significant impact on Johor's economy, especially among local and small businesses. I have relayed their feedback to Menteri Besar Datuk Hasni Muhammad and second the call that a friendlier approach be taken by government agencies. He has agreed to convey the message to the 16 local councils in Johor to adopt a more pro-business approach to facilitate the economic sectors in their efforts to bounce back, said T. He said the business community looked forward to the reopening and resumption of economic sectors following the government's recent move to allow 11 more economic activities to resume. Government agencies should play the role of facilitator instead of strict regulator when implementing policies, as this humanized approach will encourage new businesses and existing ones to continue operating and contribute to a vibrant economy, he added. T also urged the business community to abide by the government's regulations and standard operating procedure under the National Recovery Plan. This included checking on customers' vaccination status before allowing them to enter premises, he said. Such measures must be taken as the COVID-19 pandemic is not over yet and the road to recovery has to be a two-way street, he stressed. Source: New Straits Times, the 10th of September 2021. Thanks for watching this video. As a bonus for viewing this video up to now, my colleague Madam Florence VA, another virtual assistant to CTM Joseph NG, would be giving a free chapter to you. Okay, thanks again. Thank you Madam Sophia VA, for allowing me to present the rest of this week's bulletin. In case you forget, may I introduce myself as Madam Florence, another virtual assistant to CTM Joseph NG. Without further ado, let's continue. Alright. Chapter 7. I will think over, close quote. When your prospect says, I think over, they expect you to say, 0k, and you leave. Because that's what an average salesperson does. By Tom Hopkins, a world-renowned as the builder of sales champions. For the past 30 years, he's provided superior sales training through his company. You have to read the chapter closely to get a thorough understanding of the, I think over, closing method. In truth, this closing method have made many of my trainees excel in their closing ratios. Speaking through my personal experience in the closing situation I have over the years in selling and training, I arrived to the conclusion that the greatest single problem we all have in our selling is, I will think it over and let you know. By the way, if you have never heard of this, don't bother about it. But the prospectors use this tactic to you, don't they? You have often heard this saying by a prospect, I tell you what, I am just not the kind of person who likes to make, snap, judgment. You let me sleep on it overnight. We would probably go along with you, but I just hate to make a decision right now. Let me think it over. Again, you have heard this, haven't you? When a prospective customer says to you, I'll think it over, you will have tell him. And I would strongly recommend you to memorize these lines. That's fine, sir. Obviously, you wouldn't take your time thinking this over unless you were really interested. Would you? You are telling me this to get rid of me, are you? So may I assume that you will give it a very careful consideration. You see, in the mind of the would-be buyer thinks this salesman would let him go. Sounds like it, doesn't it? He thinks, oh boy. This sales professional is going to let me go, so he agrees with the statement all the way. Furthermore, he confirms that, yeah, the salesman is going to believe me that he will give it a very careful consideration. Then, I suggest you make this statement. With the understanding that's why, as an qualified and experienced author, wants you to memorize firmly this answer. Just to clarify my thinking, sir, so here is where you set the hook and you continue saying, what phase of the program that you want to think it over. Is it the integrity of? And you name your company. He will say, no. Is it my personal integrity? He'll say, no. Here we are summarily closing the prospect with his remark of, I'll think it over. Here you apply the summary closing. Now what is going to happen to the prospect? You're going to ask, is it this? No. Is it that? No. Is it that? No. While probing, all of a sudden, he is going to realize what is holding back his decision when he says, yes, it is that, if the right objection is identified. Now, what have you got? You have got a final objection. You got something you can get your teeth into. Hence, you close on the final objection and you tell him or her what to do. In truth, you see the problem of, I'll think it over, is a very complex problem. That is nothing much you can get from the phase, I'll think it over. So, the next wise thing to do is to ask yourself, what you have got to do with, I'll think it over. Right. In truth, your next step is to reduce it to a specific objection so that you can handle an objection. Believe me, you cannot handle the intangible, I'll think it over. Make no mistakes, when faced with this, I'll think it over, close, just given earlier, there is one point where if you stop for breath, you will blow the entire closing strategy. What phase of the program is it, sir, that you want to think over? And if you stop for breath right there, he will say, perhaps the whole thing. And you are dead. But if you continue without hesitation, what phase of the program is it, sir, that you want to think it over? Is it the integrity of the name of your company? You get into that second, is it? Without pausing at all, and you get him to say, no, no, no. And finally, he realizes what's happening and he says, yes, that's it. I guarantee you that if you can use it with skill when faced with the saying, I will think it over, you will have to convince yourself in your own imagination, boy, I own this one. As here is a critical instant in this close that comes when you must say, just to clarify my thinking, what is it that you wanted to think over? Is it my company's integrity? Remember that a pause between, over and is it my company's integrity, is a pure disaster. Don't turn this important element of the closing into two sentences. What is that you wanted to think over? Is it my company's integrity? Don't pause or even raise your tone to indicate a question after the word, over. Just continue asking again and again to seek out the stumbling block that is holding back the prospect's decision to buy. That said, shall we cross over to the all-important summary? It's highly important, as this paragraph would serve as a reminder. Get my drift? Summary. Without sounding like a broken record, allow me to highlight some important points. All right. Be assured this close method had helped me and my trainees to close more sales. To reinforce yourself, do not be shaken by these words uttered by the prospects. To consider these few words as stairway to the sales close. To take advantage of this, think it over, do take a chance to find out the real reason or reasons why the prospect does not buy. By the process of elimination, you can single out the real reason and then you can finally close the sale effectively. Does that sound easy to understand and to use as a great method of closing? You bet. Finally, it is now the best time to end this chapter with a convincing conclusion. Agree. Conclusion. Therefore, in rounding up chapter 7 regarding the chapter's title, I will think over, close, I cannot overstress its importance as an effective closing method. Since that you have read almost the entire chapter, I am sure you will agree with me, and without any doubt, it really does works. Trust me. What really convinced me and my participant is that we have successfully used this method. 9 out of 10 times, it has worked effortlessly. You should try this method faithfully. You may fail once or twice, but when applied often and well, you would thank me for this. Having said and done, I am happy to close this chapter with a big thank you. All right. Hope to see you in the next chapter. Goodbye from me, Sophia and CTM Joseph NG. End of chapter 7. Hope you find this chapter useful for your work. P.S. I am reminded by CTM Joseph NG that, if you want to order this book or need his sales and marketing services, please WhatsApp him at 01238788592 or email him at josephsing@gmail.com. Okay, thanks again.